Okay, so we are going to start with our next lecture, that is object diagram. This particular object diagram we are studying after the class diagram, right? So now here we see, as we have earlier also seen, that the diagrams are being divided into two categories depending on their dynamic or static nature. What we have done is we have divided it into behavioral diagram and structural diagram, two broad classification. Among this, I already told you that this particular behavioral diagrams are the dynamic in nature. Dynamic means they are going to change time to time. And when we talk about the structure, it is of static nature. That means it is a static view of the application. Now, static view means it is going to remain the same even the time passes. Now, in this structure diagram, firstly, we have already done this particular class diagram. Now, the second diagram we are going to do is the object diagram. So, this session is about the object diagram. Let's move to the object diagram. We are going to understand what is object diagram, how do we define objects in the graphical form, what actually it is, and why do we do it. So when we say object diagram, basic fundamental is we all know that class is an abstract form and object is what? Object is the instance of the class. That means when we pass data in the class, that particular data value forms the object. Okay. If I say that employee is the class, when the name of the employee is given, let's say ABC or Ravi, so that particular Ravi is the data for the employee name. Now employee is the class, while employee Ravi, when we say, that is the instance of the class, and that forms the object. So that is what I have told you. That is, let's say employee E is the class. This is a class. We form it in the rectangular format. This is a class. And when we give the name of the employee, when we pass data in the employee form, that is Ravi. Ravi. So this forms the instance of the class, and then it is called to be as the, it is called to be as the object. Okay, we have, if we have, one is employee name attribute, then we have the employee ID, right? So the ID we give to Ravi is, let it be 101. So this is what we are passing data to. What we are passing data to employee ID, that is 101. So what is this? Again, it is forming the instance of the class. So now this whole Ravi with all its attributes having the value is formed to be as the object. Okay. So now what object diagram is going to define? Obviously object diagram is going to define as the instance of the class, right? As the instance of the class. Now when we say that object diagram is almost similar to the class diagram on the concept of that it is forming as the, or it captures the static view. In the class diagram also, we have seen that class diagram forms the static view of the system. But when we say object diagram, it is forming the static view of the system at a particular movement. This is very important. At a particular movement. If I say diagram is capturing the static view of a system only up till here, then it is said to be as class diagram. But when it is capturing the static view of a system at a particular moment, that particular is the object diagram. It is used in forward and reverse engineering as in class diagram. Object relationships are defined in a system, how the objects are related to each other, how they are dependent, how they are associated, and all these terms. And lastly, we can understand the behavior of the object and their relationship according to the practical perspective. Yani based on the practical perspective, we can understand and we can analyze the behavior and the relationship of these objects. That is what the purpose of object diagram is. Fine. So when I elaborate on this terminology, that is to capture the static view of a system at a particular moment, I would rather say that object diagram can be imagined as a snapshot of a running system at a particular moment. When let's think, if I take a snapshot of a running system at a particular moment, I'll get certain values of all the classes, of all the objects with certain values which are of that particular moment. That is called as the object diagram. Let's take with an example. Let's say we have a class that is called as train, and we have a class that is called as train journey. These are two classes. Now we are defining the object diagram here. We have captured a snapshot of the running trains. We have captured a snapshot of the running train. Here, the running train, the train number 1 is the object. And this particular train ID has value 11. Train type is express. The speed at this particular moment of this train is 150 km per hour. Get train ID is obviously one integer. Set type express, text, in service, whether this particular train is in service or not. This is boolean. You can give it true or false, or 0 or 1. So what this is giving? This is giving the data to all these attributes, and these data values are of this particular moment, Now we can see the other class is the train journey. So OB1 is the first train journey, and OB2 is the next object of the class train journey. Now starting point, or starting from place 1, terminating at place 2, journey time is 125 minutes, and same with all these data out here. So what you can see is that the object diagram, this is the object diagram of the class diagram train and train journey. So this particular is what? Class diagram would be the generalized one. That is the train, train ID, train type, maximum speed, and all these things. And train journey with starting from, terminating, and journey time. But when I am talking about the train 1, at this particular moment, train ID of this train 1 is 11. It's an express train, and right now the speed of the train is 150 km per hour. And these values are of the point where we have captured this particular image or snapshot. So this is forming the object diagram. I hope you have got the concept of object diagram. Now we are going to see how we are going to use the notations, the names, and how we are going to graphically render the object diagram. Okay, so let's see here. First of all, we have three things, that is the object name, the attributes, and the links. So what are object names? Same as class name. What we give the class names in a rectangular box. Here also we can give the object name in a rectangular box. The only difference is we have to define the object name here, colon, the class name, right? Example, I have defined that we have a class called student. We have a class called student, right? This is a class, but the object of this class is Rohan. The object of this class is Rohan. So how am I going to write it? I'm going to write it as Rohan. I'm going to write it as Rohan. Colon student, S, that is the class name. So Rohan, that is the object name, colon, which class Thus, Rohan belongs to student class. So, object is Rohan, Rohan colon student is how we are going to define the name of the object. So, every object is actually symbolized like a rectangle that offers the name from the object and its class, underlined as well as divided with a colon. We also have to underline it, being the name of the object and the class name. Okay, so that is what we have it here, and we have to provide it in a rectangular box with the underline with the underline. Okay, so this is how the objects are name are defined. Now moving to the next point, we have the object attributes. Now what is this object attributes? Object attributes is again defined same way as we define it in the class. The first rectangular box gives the name. It gives the name of object and the class. The second part gives the attributes in the class, and in the object we give the value of these attributes, such as when we say student, I have given Rohan as the object and class as the student. So Rohan colon student underline. Okay, so this is forming the object attribute. Object attribute, I told you that this is the object attribute in which we have given what? Rohan as the object name, R colon S as the class name, and we have the attribute, let it be student ID. Fine. So student ID is what? Student ID is the attribute. Now what value we will give to student ID? The Rohan has the student ID as R01, let it be. Okay, so R01 is the value. So we will give SID, student ID is equal to R01. So this is how we are going to define the attributes. So similar to classes, you are able to list object attributes inside a separate compartment. However, unlike classes, object attributes should have values assigned to them. You have to remember this, that you are not only going to, what is the difference between the class diagram and the object diagram? In the class diagram, we only have the attributes with the visibility, but here in the object diagram we have the attributes value also with the attribute. So moving further, the third thing is the links. Now what are these links? Links are the relationship or the associations between the instances. So links tend to be instances associated with the associations. You can draw a link by using the lines utilized in the class diagram. These particular links are same as the class diagram, such as generalization, dependency, association with the multiplicity. It can be one to one, one to many, many to one, and so on and so forth. This we have already covered in the last lecture, that was of class diagram. Fine. So now what you have to remember, the difference between the class diagram and object diagram is, an object diagram is a UML structural diagram that shows the instances of the classifiers in the models. That means it is going to give you the instances of the class, not the class. While class diagram gives you the class and it gives you the instance of the class. That means a specific value for that particular class. Now next, object diagrams use notation that is similar to that used in the class diagrams. We have so many notations which are same, which are used in object diagram and the class diagrams. Third thing, class diagrams show the actual classifiers and their relationships in a system. But when we talk about object diagrams, they show specific instances of those classifiers. Example, we have already seen employee, maybe employee is the actual classifier, but specific instance of the classifier is Ravi. So employee का एक instance क्या हुआ? Ravi. And the links between these points at the point of time. You can create object diagrams by instantiating the classifiers in class, deployment, component, and use case diagrams. These we are going to learn it further in series. We are going to see there. Now we are going to see the class diagram and the object diagram. The order management system we have already seen in the earlier section, the class diagram. We are taking the same example out here. That is, this one is the class diagram. We have already seen. We have two classes. One is the customer class and the other one is the order class. Fine. So we have attributes, name and location. We have methods, send order and receive order. Order we have date and number, attributes, close and confirm are the methods. Now these are two subclasses of the superclass order, that is normal order and special order, and this we can see as the generalization. We can see the link between these two as the generalization. That means this is the generalization of order and these are the specifications of the order, that is normal order or specific order. Now when we move to the object diagram, how we can draw the object diagram is, we have C as the customer, as the name of the customer. Okay, so that forms the object. C is the name of the customer which belongs to the class that is called as customer. So C is the object name and customer is the class name. So C colon customer underline. Okay. Now this is again we have order. Now we are not going to show the class. Again we are only going to see the instance of class order. That is, we have order 1, O1, O2 and O3. That means we have three objects of order class and we have one object of customer class. So we have O1. O1 is the object name and order is the class name. So O1 colon order underline. O2 again is the object name, second object name, order class को belong करता है, underline किया. Similarly O3 colon order. Now we have another class, that is special order class. These particular order belongs to special order class. That is, S1 is the name of the object which belongs to the class special order. It has number that is equal to 43. And similarly S2 special order, number is equal to 50, and S3, these are what? These are the attributes. The number you can see here is the attribute of the special order class. We have given how? We have given the attribute. We have given the attribute name equal to the value of the attribute. While in the class name, while in the class diagram, we are not going to give the value of the attribute. We are only going to give the data type and the attribute name in the attribute section, second compartment. And this is what we are showing the links between these particular concepts. So this is how we are going to convert we can see the difference of class diagram and the object diagram. So that's all for in this section. Thank you.